So now that we have created depth in our mix with the first half of the mix depth matrix, it's time to learn how to create distance in our mix. Now, this is going to be through creating the rest of the mix depth matrix, but it's also going to be through using the tools that we learned in earlier videos. So if you remember, pushing things farther away is going to make things quieter, it's going to make things darker, and it's going to make things more compressed with smaller dynamic ranges. So before we get started, I actually want to show you a graphic that we've built that makes creating distance in your mix so much easier. So you can see in this graphic that there is a near, a far, and kind of a middle ground area for this room. And there are the 4 different ways that you can create distance in your mix: with reverb, with volume, with EQ, and with compression. So the mix depth matrix is covering our reverb, but it's up to you to use your volume, your EQ, and your compression to be able to create even more convincing distance in your mixes. So whenever you're in doubt, just come back and check out this chart, and it's going to really help you to figure out how to push something back in the mix or how to bring something closer to you in the mix. So with that said, let's finish up creating our mix depth matrix. If you go over to this chart on the reverb section, you can see that there are 3 different categories: pre-delay, early and late reflection balance, and wet and dry balance. These are the 3 main ways that you can change up how far away an instrument is going to sound from the listener based on reverb settings. Now, there's also distance, but not every single reverb plugin has a distance parameter. So we're just going to assume that you're going to know if you want something to be far away, it needs a larger distance parameter. But let me go back to my mix. Right now we've got our 4 different aux tracks: our front, our middle, our back, and our room tone. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to copy over my reverb to all 4 of these different aux tracks. And what that's going to do is it's going to say that, okay, I have the same general room settings for each one of these auxes, so it's going to feel like all of my instruments are performing in the same room. But I'm going to give each of these different plugins slightly different settings that's going to allow me to say, okay, I want my vocals to be really upfront, I'm going to send them to the front aux. Or I want my electric guitar to be really far back, I'm going to send it to the back aux. Or I want my piano to have a lot of room tone, a lot of sound of the room. I'm going to make sure that I'm sending some of it to my room tone aux. It's just a way to very easily create some distance in your mix. So let's go back and check out this graphic. So with our reverb, let's start with pre-delay. Now we know if we want to create a reverb that makes things sound close to the listener, we want it to have a large pre-delay. If we want it to sound really far away from the listener, we want it to have a small pre-delay or no pre-delay. And of course, if we want it to be kind of farther away from the listener, then it just needs to be somewhere between those 2. Now, first off, you want to remember that we're talking about early pre-delay here, not late pre-delay. So if your plugin has late pre-delay, but not early pre-delay, you want to make sure that you are adding a delay plugin before the reverb plugin and giving it just a very, very subtle, very, very quick delay with no feedback to kind of compensate for the fact that your plugin doesn't have that option. The other thing you want to be thinking about is what kind of room did I select? So we've actually got another chart that's going to really help you out with selecting your pre-delay times for this. It's our pre-delay and decay time cheat sheet. This helps you to understand what pre-delays and what decay times are common for different types of reverbs, specifically rooms, chambers, and halls, but also ambiances. Now, the reason that we have this is that really, really large rooms really just don't ever naturally have 0 pre-delay, just because of the acoustical physics of the whole thing. They have a much larger range of possibilities for what pre-delay you could have. You know, if you have a very small room, you can only move someone so close to you, which means that there's a limit to how large your pre-delay is. But if you have a very large room, you can have a very large amount of space between the sound and any nearby wall, which if you remember, that's how we understand how large our pre-delay is. The larger the distance between a sound and its nearest wall, the larger the pre-delay. So if you remember, we selected a room type for this mix. So I'm going to want to make sure my pre-delay is between 0 milliseconds and 25 milliseconds. Now, mostly since it's ambience, I'm probably going to keep it more, kind of 0 to 10, 0 to 15, something like that. That's the range that we are shooting for here. It's going to be subtle, but it's going to help our ears to really distinguish where different parts of the sound is. So first, I'm going to go to my front reverb. I'm going to go down to my pre-delay. And remember, if it's closer to you, you want a larger pre-delay. So I'm going to set this at 15 milliseconds. That's a little bit past what an ambience really can be, but it's going to help for anything that we have in the front to really feel like it's forward. Next, let's go to our middle. In our middle channel, we're going to want a kind of middling pre-delay. I think 8 milliseconds is great. It's in between 0 and 15. 15 is the closest that we're going to get. So I'm a fan. That's great. Finally, let's check out our back. So this is for instruments that are the furthest away from the listener. And I want no pre-delay for this. I really want it to be almost against the back wall. So either no pre-delay or maybe 1 millisecond of pre-delay, just to keep it a little bit more natural, because the sound is not going to be coming from inside of the wall. It's going to be in front of it. So I think that's feeling great to me. Now, real quick, just while I'm thinking about it, I'm also going to change up my distance parameter. So for my front reverb, I want a very, very low distance parameter. So I might be tweaking these settings in a little bit. I'm just getting a good starting place. Let's say that I'm going to set this to about 10%. For my middle reverb, let's put it at about 35%, we'll say. Maybe 40. And then for our back reverb, let's set that to about 80%. That's probably pretty good. So between our pre-delays and our distance settings, we've got a pretty big range of settings for our distances. So let's go back to our distance graphic. So let's look at our next category, early and late reflection balance. If I want my reverb to make something sound close, I'm going to want mostly early reflections. If I want it to sound far away, it's going to be closer to 50-50. Obviously, if I want it in the middle, it's going to be halfway in between those two things. So let's go back to our mix. And in my front reverb, I'm going to go to details. So for this, let me set this to, let's say 95%. That's mostly early reflections. It's got a little bit of late reflections just to keep it natural sounding, but that's going to make it feel a lot closer to the listener. Now in the middle, I'm going to hit details, and we're going to set that to, let's say, 85% early reflections. It's got a little bit more late reflections for color and it make it sound just a little bit farther away, but it's still mostly your earlies. In fact, let's actually set this to 90. And again, we can always tweak this later if we think we messed up our ratios. This is just getting us to a good starting place. Finally, on our back, go to details. And let's set my early and late reflections to, I'm actually going to go 60-40 on this, just because I have a whole separate channel, which we'll get to in a little bit, that I'm using for room tone to help to give the sound of the room a little bit more credence. So let's go back to our graphic again. And on the final category, which is wet and dry balance, you can see that something that's closer to us is mostly dry. Something that's far away from us is about 50-50 between dry and wet sound. And something that's in the middle is splitting the difference, halfway between the two. So if we're using sends for our reverb, how do we actually get this wet-dry balance that we're looking for? So instead of tweaking the individual amounts on different channels, like on different actual tracks, which I think can be really tedious in the mix, I actually will send 100% of whatever instrument I'm wanting to send to one of these channels, which sounds crazy, but to compensate, I'll actually turn down the faders, the volume faders of these different things. Because what this does is basically, this is our wet signal. If you go into our reverb, go back to main, we have 100% wet on every single one of these channels. If I have this set to 100%, right? If I have this set to unity and I'm sending unity, what that means is that I'm going to have 50% dry and 50% wet happening. But if I'm sending 100% of a track to the front and I've turned down the volume by 15 dBs, well, I don't have 50% wet, 50% dry. I've got mostly dry and a little bit of my wet signal coming in. So even though I'm sending 100% of my original dry sound from my send, I'm not going to have nearly as much of that sound in the actual mix. So that's how we are going to kind of fake a wet-dry balance, even though anytime you're using sends, you're always going to want this to be 100% wet. So again, we will be tweaking these whenever we start with our mix. I'm just going to set this to negative 15 dBs. I'm going to set this to about 7 dBs just to cut the difference. And I'm going to leave this at 0 and we'll tweak with time. So before we do our final step, let's go and check out our room tone. So what can we do to this plugin to make this send basically just extra free room tone? Like if I need something to just feel like it's really a part of the room, what can I do to this to keep it from pushing things back? Because really that's what we have our front, middle, and back channels for. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to go to details and I'm going to make this primarily late reflections. In fact, I'm going to do 100% late reflections. My front, my middle, my back, those are all the earlier reflections I need. That's all of my depth that I really need to have. This is just for color. This is just for room color. As for the rest of your settings over here, it's going to depend on your particular reverb plugin. I don't typically have any pre-delay for this because it cuts out the early reflections, so there's kind of a built-in pre-delay anyway. And for my distance, I usually kind of keep it wherever I set my middle to. I just find that that's the easiest to do. It tends to make the plugins sound the most natural. But if you're really feeling like that's not giving you much of a good room tone, you can always increase the distance, because as you increase the distance, you're going to get more and more late reflections. So that can be really helpful as well. So we've officially set up our mix depth matrix. It's finally done. So now we get to do the fun part. We get to go in and actually start to send different instruments to different auxes to get not only depth, but distance in our mixes. So the first thing I'm going to do, I'm going to select everything and I'm going to turn all of my my front send all the way back down. We were only using that to set up our depth, our general room sound. We don't really need it anymore unless we're putting something in the front of the mix. So now I'm just going to hit play, and all I'm going to do is I am going to go one instrument at a time, and I'm going to think, what instruments do I want in the front of my mix? What instruments do I want in the back of my mix? And what instruments do I want in the middle? Now, typically, I tend to divide it 25% in the front, 25% in the back, 50% in the middle. And the way I tell which should go where is if the listener should be really paying attention to it, I make sure it's either in the front or kind of in the middle, maybe, but typically in the front. Like your vocals, those are going to be in the front. Your kick and your snare, those are probably going to be in the front. If it's something that is meant to fill up the sound, maybe it's ear candy, maybe it is a nice pad, maybe it's just something to, establish the back wall or just be something that's nice and thick, that tends to go in the back because it's not meant to distract the listener. It's just meant to give the mix, the song, more nice emotion. Everything else goes into the middle. The middle is kind of where most of your instruments are going to live. It's really only if they are an exception to the rule do they go in the front or the back. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to hit play. I'm going to listen and I'm going to think what instruments are in the front and what instruments are in the back. And I just do those first. I send stuff to the front, I send stuff to the back, and then I go in and I fill in the details with all my middles. So let's hit play and get started.
I miss you so badly. I don't know if I'm even thinking straight. I'm feeling numb.
So first off, obviously my vocals, my kick, my bass, all of those I want to be in the front. So that's where I'm going to start off with.
I miss you so badly. I don't know if I'm even thinking straight. I'm feeling numb. Oh, I can taste your love.
You know, and I think my snare as well can go in the front. I feel like it's maybe a bit too far back right now. So I'm just going to go in. I actually have a few snares in this particular song, and I'm going to send those to the front.
I miss you so badly. I don't know if I'm even thinking straight.
Cool, so you can see if I solo front, we're going to hear just the sound of those instruments.
I miss you so badly. I don't know if I'm even thinking straight.
And because we have it turned down so much, we really can't hear much of that at all. It's just giving everything a little bit of depth. So now I want to think, what do I want to be in the back? What needs to just fill up the sound, fill up the space? So let's hit play and think about it.
I miss you so badly. I don't know if I'm even thinking straight. Taste your love. I miss you so badly. I don't know straight. I'm feeling numb. Oh,
Okay, I feel like for me, the first thing that I'm gonna probably want in the back is this hat sample, this hi-hat sample. I just feel like it's maybe a bit too far forward, and it's something that's filling up the space, but it's not providing much in the way of groove.
I miss you so badly. I don't know if I'm even thinking.
Now, here's an important point to bring up. Whenever you're adding reverb, especially onto background instruments, but also onto your middle instruments, you're going to be adding a lot of loudness. Because the back aux is turned up so much, it's really loud. So I just added a lot of sound. So I want to make sure that I'm turning down the volume of that instrument to compensate, because otherwise it's not actually going to get pushed back in the mix. It's just going to be louder sounding, and I don't really want to do that.
I miss you so badly. I don't know if I'm even thinking straight. I'm feeling numb. Oh, I can taste your love.
Cool. I can already tell that for me personally, there's maybe too much in the way of late reflections on here, so I'm actually going to change this to 70-30.
I miss you so badly.
Because I usually want to have it a little bit drier sounding, because my wet sound is going to come from this room tone. Okay, let's listen again.
I miss you so badly. I don't know if I'm feeling numb. Oh,
I kind of feel like this electro percussion thing, again, it's really nice ear candy, but it's probably good background stuff. So I'm going to send that to the back as well.
I miss you so badly.
And I'm going to turn it down to compensate.
Don't know if I'm even thinking straight. I'm feeling numb.
Cool. Let me listen one more time.
I miss you so badly. I don't know if I'm even thinking straight. I'm feeling numb. Oh, I can taste your love.
I feel like these sticks that come in right before the transition, right here, those are way too far forward. So I'm going to want to send those to the back as well. So that feels pretty good to me as far as what is going to be in the back. Again, you don't really want too much in the front and the back. It's really only about 50% of your instruments. Most everything is going to be living in the middle. It's only the stuff that you really feel like either people need to be listening to or is really only there to support the song are the only two things that are really needing to be somewhere other than the middle of the room. So now I'm just going to go back through and start to fill in the blanks. So I'm going to hit play and I'm going to start sending everything else to the middle.
I miss you so badly. I don't know if if I'm even thinking straight. I'm feeling numb. Oh, I can taste your love. I miss you so badly. I don't know if I'm even thinking straight. I'm feeling numb. Oh, I can taste your love. I miss you so badly. I don't know if I'm even thinking straight. I'm feeling numb. Oh, I can taste your love.
Great. So let's just see a quick before and after for these 3 parts of our mixed depth matrix.
I miss you so badly. I don't know if I'm even thinking straight.
Sweet. Gives it some nice depth, pushes some stuff back. So now I just want to sit and think, okay, what needs more color? What do I want to have the sound of the room in? Because right now we've got the depth of the room. We don't really have much in the way of, actual room color in our mix. So I'm going to hit play and just listen and see if I can think of anything.
I miss you so badly. I don't know if I'm even thinking.
First off, definitely the vocals.
I miss you so badly. I don't know if I'm even thinking straight. I'm feeling numb.
Maybe the piano a bit.
Oh, I can taste your love. I miss you so badly.
I don't typically tell people to put late reflection reverbs on the bass, but this is such a melodic bass. I kind of feel like this one needs it a bit.
I miss you so badly. I don't know if I'm even thinking straight. I'm feeling numb. Oh, I can taste your.
And you can see with this one, the old rules don't apply. We're not sending 100% of any instrument to that aux track. I'm just adding as much as I feel like is necessary. I don't want to put in too much, especially because I could just add more reverbs later if I feel like that instrument needs something. We're going to be talking about that in the next module. So for this, it's just kind of like, does it need a little bit extra of, the sound of the room, the cohesion of the room?
I miss you so badly. I don't know if I'm even thinking straight. I'm feeling numb.
Like the room's got some.
I miss you so badly. I don't know if I'm even thinking straight. I'm feeling numb.
Maybe the snare sample, just to make it more cohesive.
I can taste your love. I miss you so badly. I don't know if I'm even.
Stuff that is sent to the back channel, I usually, not always, but I'll usually send some of that instrument to my room tone thing as well, because those are going to be the ones that are the most reverbed out anyway.
Badly. I don't know if I'm even thinking straight. I'm feeling numb. Oh, I can taste your love. I miss you so badly. I don't know if I'm even thinking straight. I'm feeling numb. Oh, I can take your love. I don't know if I'm even thinking straight.
Okay, that's overall feeling pretty good to me. So keep in mind, you don't have to send everything to the room tone. It's really only if your instrument needs it. In fact, if you send everything, the room tone can become a bit of a mess. So I would pick your battles carefully, pick which ones you're going to want to really help to represent the sound of the room, and you should be good to go. So with that said, let's do a quick before and after, because we now have pretty much finished our mix depth matrix. We might want to go in and do some tweaks, but on the whole, this is what it sounds like.
I miss you so badly. I don't know if I'm even thinking straight. I'm feeling numb. Oh, I can taste your love. I miss you.
Sweet. Yep, I'm getting the sound that I was looking for. So before I move on, let's go make some tweaks. We've got our foundation, but this is a soft science, not a hard science. So if you are feeling like, oh man, my front reverb just feels like there's not enough low or late reflections, or maybe the decay time is too long or something like that, it's totally fine to go and mess with it. In fact, I kind of have that thought myself. I feel like the decay time is just a little bit too long for the front.
I miss you so badly. I don't know if I'm even thinking straight. I'm feeling numb. Oh, I can taste your love.
That's a little bit better for me. In fact, I'm just going to set that to a quarter note. Perfect. That's what I'm looking for. I think I'm going to get more aggressive with my pre-delays as well, just to really separate the front from the back. I'm just going to double it. I'm going to go and I'm going to do, let's say 30 milliseconds. And again, I can tweak if I need to tweak, but I just want to see what this sounds like. Let's make this 15 milliseconds.
I miss you so badly. I don't know if I'm even thinking straight.
I'm liking that. I'm going to go and I'm going to change my middle decay to a quarter note as well. But I think I'm actually going to keep the decay of my back where it is, because I do really like how it's filling out the sound.
I miss you so badly. I don't know if I'm even thinking straight.
Yeah, I'm liking that.
I miss you so badly. I don't know if I'm even thinking straight. I'm feeling
No, I actually think I like the decay being a quarter note there, but I think I'm going to leave the decay where it is for the room tone. I like that. For my ambience, it's a little bit shorter. For my room tone, it's a little bit longer. Now, at this point, if you want to do any special tweaks, you totally can. So, for example, one thing you might want to do is maybe mess with your width. I'll commonly see people who are using this technique will actually put the back at about 50% width, which means it's more mono. That's usually because the room tone tends to be really wide. So, because they're going to be setting so much of their tracks to the room tone, it's helpful to kind of squeeze the back in. But sometimes I'll actually see the opposite done for the front to really spread it out, make it a little bit more stereo. So I might do that. Let's set that to 115. That might really help us out just a bit, For my back reverb as well, I actually think I want to go into my output EQ and cut a little bit more. I just feel like the reverb is getting in the way of stuff. It's just a little bit too bright to my ears. Now, again, this is soft science. There's not a great reason why I'm doing this. It's just not doing it for me. So I'm just going to increase this a little bit. I'm going to make my slopes a little bit less aggressive though. Yeah. That feels pretty good to me. And I think I might actually do the same for my room tone as well. I feel like my room tone is just a little bit too bright. So I'm going to go in here, change that out. Let's increase that a bit. This is feeling okay to me though. Cool. So now that I made all these tweaks, let's do our final before and after. And then we will move on and talk about other ways of creating distance.
I miss you so badly. I don't know if I'm even thinking straight. I'm feeling numb. Oh, I can taste your love.
Awesome. That's feeling great to me. So we've finally finished with the mix depth matrix. We've been able to get some great depth. We've been able to get some great distance in between our different instruments. But there are still a few things that we need to do if we really want to get good distance. If we really want to get a foreground and a background in our mix. So now it's time to use a little EQ and compression to really push the envelope between stuff that's forward, stuff that's in the back, and stuff that is in the middle. So if you remember back to our creating distance graphic, we've already done reverb. So all we have left to do is EQ, compression, and maybe even a little bit of volume, just to really push that envelope. So if we're starting with EQ, we can see that the three options are bright, dimmer, and dark. Now what that means is that stuff that's closer to us, stuff that's closer to the listener, is going to seem a lot brighter to the ears. But stuff that's far away from the listener, because the sound has to travel a lot longer, is going to be darker to the ears. So how can we use EQ to simulate that distance? So let's go into our mix, and really what we're going to do is we're just going to hit play, and I'm going to think, okay, which instruments still need to feel like they are farther back in the mix, and which instruments still feel like they need to be farther forward in the mix. If they still feel like they need to be farther back, then I probably want to do some cutting. But if they need to be farther forward, I might want to actually do a little bit of boosting in the top end. That's another really helpful trick. Getting something forward could mean just boosting in the top end or boosting in the upper mids. So let's listen.
I miss you so badly. I don't know if I'm even thinking straight. I'm feeling numb.
So the first thing that I'm hearing is that the vocals, they're a little loud, but I want them to be farther forward. They're just not quite bright enough. And the other thing I would say is the same thing with the snare. The snare needs to feel closer. And right now it still feels like it's kind of in the middle of the soundscape. So to fix these, I'm going to go in here and I'm going to add an EQ. And all I'm going to do is I'm just going to add a little top end shelf, and I'm just going to boost it a little bit. If I really feel like this needs a lot, I might boost it quite a bit. Knowing me, I've probably already boosted the top end of my vocals. This is stuff that I'm doing towards the end of my mix balancing. So I'm probably not going to need to do like a 10 dB boost to get that brightness that I'm looking for. So let's just see what happens.
I miss you so badly. I don't know if I'm even thinking straight. I'm feeling numb. Oh, I can taste your love. Oh, I miss you so badly.
So one good side effect of this is that if I push something up in the brightness department, I can usually actually back off the volume a bit. Which you saw with my vocals, I added about 3 dBs in the top end. They started feeling too far forward, so I backed off the volume and they locked into place. So now let's go check out the snare.
I miss you so badly. I don't know if I'm even thinking. I'm feeling numb. Oh,
Okay, let's check out this snare.
your love. I miss you so. I don't know if I'm even thinking straight. I'm feeling numb.
And then finally, there's one other snare sample right here. So let's bring that forward as well.
I miss you so badly. I don't know if I'm even thinking straight. I'm feeling numb. Oh, I can taste your love. Oh, I miss you so badly.
That feels good to me. Again, I was able to add a little bit of top end to kind of make it feel more present. And then I was able to turn down the volume to really lock it into place. So now let's listen again for stuff that is still feeling too far forward, that we can push back in the mix and maybe even turn the volume up so that it's filling up the mix more nicely.
I miss you so badly. I don't know if I'm even thinking straight. I'm feeling numb. Oh, I can take love. Oh, I miss you so badly. I don't know if I'm even thinking straight.
So here's what I'm hearing. There's a few of our percussion samples that I feel like are still just a little bit too far forward, and our piano still feels, it feels like it should be in this big room, kind of in the background, but it's not quite there. So I'm going to go and add an EQ to those different tracks. So let's actually start with the piano, because that's going to be the easiest to hear. So whenever you do this trick, whenever you add an EQ to the end of your plugin chain, you're usually going to want to have a very subtle filter. You're not going to want to have something with a slope that's really aggressive. You don't want 48 dBs per octave. You usually only want about 6 dBs per octave, maybe 12 dBs per octave. But the more gradual the slope, the more natural it's going to sound, the more it's going to reflect what it would actually sound like if it was farther away, if it was recorded from farther away. So I'm just going to cut a little bit of the top end and then a little bit of the low end, just for good measure.
I miss you so badly. I don't know if I'm even thinking straight. I'm feeling numb. Oh, I can taste your love. I miss you.
So I'm being so subtle. I'm not trying to get really aggressive. The more aggressive you get, the faker this technique sounds. I usually don't ever go above 200 hertz with my high pass filter and probably 2 kilohertz with my low pass filter. At that point, you really start to get a fake sound. And if that's what you're going for tonally, awesome, do it. But if you're just trying to push something back in the mix and you still want it to sound normal and natural, then really you don't want to go much past those 2 areas. Okay, so let's go check out our other samples. Let's start with this one.
I don't know if I'm even thinking straight. I'm feeling numb.
Sometimes it's helpful to actually add a gain plugin at the very end of your channel and turn up the volume for just a bit because you want to be able to hear this in context of the mix. I don't really want to solo this out because I want it to feel farther away than the rest of the instruments. But if it's already pretty quiet because it's a background instrument, it can kind of be hard to hear if you're causing more harm than good. So adding a little gain plugin at the very end, just for a moment to be able to sort of use it like a magnifying glass and look at the instrument more closely can be really helpful.
I miss you so badly. I don't know if I'm even thinking straight. I'm feeling numb. Oh, I can taste your love. I miss you so bad.
Yeah, that feels good. Okay, let's try messing with our hi-hat sample because I feel like that as well is just feeling a little bit too far forward still. And I'm just going to take these back. Let's listen.
I miss you so badly. I don't know if I'm even thinking straight. I'm feeling numb.
Now, I don't want to get too aggressive with my cuts on the hi-hat because the hi-hat is all top-end energy. If I go all the way down to 2 kilohertz, I am pretty much just getting rid of the sound of the hi-hat, and I really don't want that. So I'm definitely going to keep it a little bit higher on this instrument.
I miss you so badly. I don't know if I'm even thinking.
So I also think my percussion samples could just maybe lose a little bit. They could be just a little bit farther back. And let me add in my gain plugin again so it's easier to hear it.
I miss you so badly. I don't know if I'm even thinking straight. I'm feeling numb. Oh, I can taste your love. I miss you so badly. I don't know if I'm even thinking straight. I'm feeling numb. Oh, I can taste your love. I miss you so badly. I don't know if I'm even.
Okay, cool. Everything's starting to feel pretty good. I think I actually just want to go to my bass. My bass is actually a bit of a melodic instrument in this section, so I might actually go in here and add a bit of a top-end boost as well.
I miss you so badly. I don't know if I'm even thinking straight. I'm feeling numb. Oh, I can taste your love. Oh, I miss you so badly.
Sweet. That's feeling pretty good. So again, the trick with this is not to be too aggressive. Subtlety is key. You know, if you're not able to really get the results that you're going for with this particular step, that's totally fine. Because past this, you can start to add some compression. You can start to compress that dynamic range to make it seem even a little bit farther away. So let's go back and check out our distance chart. Over on the right wall, you can see that we've got some compression settings that can help us out with this. Now, if we're trying to push something back, we're trying to decrease the level of the peaks. That's because if we decrease the peaks, that's going to increase the sustain. That's going to basically squish our dynamic range together. So in order to do that, we are wanting to use a compressor with a fast attack, a fast release, and a high threshold. Now, the amount of gain reduction we get, that's going to determine how far back this compressor actually pushes this sound. So let's go back to our mix. We're going to do the exact same thing that we were doing before. We're just going to listen, and we're going to think, what is still too far forward? What could still be pushed back? And if we're able to compress this, and we're able to get this dynamic range just a little bit smaller, we can even afford to turn the volume up a bit more so that it's present, but it's far away. Okay, so I feel like the hi-hat is still a bit too far forward. And I don't mean the hi-hat sample, I mean the hi-hat from the acoustic drum set, right here. Now, I don't really want to do much in the way of EQ cuts, again, because I honestly would probably rather it have more top end than less top end. So I'm going to go in and do some of that fast attack, fast release compression. So I'm just go in here and add a compressor, and I'm just going to zero it out. So turn the threshold all the way up, the ratio all the way up, the attack and release all the way down, and let's get started. So first things first, we are going to set our threshold. We're only wanting to chop off the peaks. For a hi-hat, that's going to be pretty easy because it's all peaks.
I miss you so badly.
So now let's mess with our attack and release, both of which we want to be fast, but this is way too fast. I'm just going to increase my attack until I'm getting somewhere between 0.5 millisecond and 2 milliseconds. And then I'm going to increase my release till I'm getting absolute maximum 25 milliseconds. I'm not really wanting it to be any faster than that, or I'll get some weird distortion. Okay, that's sounding good. So now I'm just going to turn my ratio down and turn it up until I'm getting, 1 to 3 dBs of gain reduction. It's meant to be subtle. I don't really want anything more than that. Sweet. So let's unsolo this and listen to what this sounds like in context of the mix.
I miss you so badly. I don't know if I'm even thinking straight. I'm feeling numb. Oh, I can taste your love. Oh, I miss you so badly. I don't.
Yeah, that feels pretty good. All right, so what next? So I feel like this electro percussion sample right here could use a little bit of that compression because I actually want to turn it up in the mix. I feel like I'm having to turn it too far down for it to be kind of sitting in the space that I want it to be. So I'm just going to go and grab a compressor, and let's do the same style of compression. Zero this out and go from there. Okay, and now I'm going to unsolo this and I'm going to start mixing the ratio in because I want to be able to listen in context for that.
I miss you so badly. I don't know if I'm even thinking straight. I'm feeling numb. Oh, I can taste your love. I miss you so badly. I don't know if I'm even thinking straight.
Yeah, that's feeling like it's pushing it back in the mix just a bit. It's going to let me turn the volume up without having to actually push it forward by doing that. Perfect.
I miss you so badly. I don't know if I'm even thinking straight.
So with this style of compression, since I'm doing it to push things farther back in the mix, I don't usually mess with makeup gain. Now, most other styles of compression, you have to have some makeup gain. But for this, I just don't really care quite as much because I'm trying to push it back. So if I need to compensate by adding a little bit of volume with the volume fader, personally, I'm totally fine with that. So if you don't want to do compression, you can also do saturation. That's another part of this entire thing. Saturation does the same thing, but sometimes it can sound a little bit smoother. And I'm feeling like I want that with the piano. So I'm going to go in here, I'm going to add some saturation, and let's see if we can get something good. Okay, so I'm just going to go and select gentle saturation. And I'm just going to, like I said, slowly add this in. I don't want any tone change. I just want it to feel farther away.
I miss you so badly. I don't know if I'm even thinking straight. I'm feeling numb. Oh, I can taste your love. I miss you so badly. I don't know if I'm even thinking.
Saturation can actually be really helpful on instruments where they're just not going to play very nicely with compression. Like this piano is really, really dynamic. It's kind of all over the place. And so it's going to make it difficult to set the threshold on your compressor accurately. But saturation, you don't really need a threshold. It just compresses everything. It's really nice. Let's do a quick before and after.
I miss you so badly. I don't know if I'm even thinking straight. I'm feeling numb. Oh, I can taste your love. I miss you so bad.
Yeah, I feel like it's a little bit more forward, but I'm actually decreasing the volume a little bit. So if I wanted it to feel farther back, I honestly could just go and turn the volume down a bit more and it would be totally fine. Sweet. So that's the end of our distance step. We've officially added EQ and compression. We've pushed things back in the mix. So let's actually see what our before and after sounds like. Now we'll start with just our EQ and compression, and then we'll do a before and after with our EQ, compression, and our reverbs. It's going to be a pretty massive difference. So check this out.
I miss you so badly. I don't know if I'm even thinking straight. I'm feeling numb. Oh, I can taste your love.
It's subtle, but it really gained a little bit more dimension. Now let's do a before and after for both parts of our distance step.
I miss you so badly. I don't know if I'm even thinking straight. I'm feeling numb. Oh, I can taste your love.
It's amazing how it becomes three-dimensional and you truly get things that feel far away and really close. So now that we've got our depth and our distance, it's time to get the final part of the shadow system, direction. I'll see you in the next video.